So far, you may not have rounded to the nearest decimal, but you're probably used to rounding off numbers to the nearest 10 or the nearest 100, or perhaps even the nearest whole number. If we take something that we're already familiar with, let's say we try to round this number 12.4 off to the nearest whole number, that means we want it to not have any decimal places after that. Our choices are to round to say it will be 12 or it will be the next number, which would be 13. We have a look at what this number is that we've been given, and if it is 4 or less, then we round down, and if it is 5 or more, then we round up. Now, why is this? Because 5 is exactly halfway between 0 and 10, so if you're wondering if it's closer to the next highest number or the number that's the previous one, it's exactly halfway, and somebody at some point must have decided, let's all just round 5 up. 4 is closer to 0 than it is to 10, and so is 3, 2 and 1. And 6, 7, 8 and 9 are closer to 10 than they are to 0. So let's have a look at how this works if we have a bigger number. If we wanted to round this number off to the nearest one decimal place, that means we want to make it only this size. It's clearly got more to it than that though. This is 12.4 and a bit. So you need to ask yourself, is it a big bit or a little bit? Because if it's a big bit, it'll be closer to 12.5 than 12.4. But if it's only a little bit, you're best off saying it's closest to 12.4. So you have a look at that number that's underneath your hand when you see how big you want the number. What's underneath? If it's a 5 or more, we round up, and we would say that this number is 12.5 to one decimal place. Now, what happens when we round things off to more decimal places? Well, let's consider a larger number. Well, not a larger number, let's have a number that just has more decimal places in it. This one looks pretty huge. Now remember, this is 1 and a bit. To be more precise, it's 1.3 and a bit. To be more precise, it's 1.32 and a bit, or 1.329 and a bit. Every time you say to yourself, and a bit, you need to ask, big bit or a little bit? Because if the bit is big, bigger than 5, it's closer to the next number up. So let's have a look at different ways to round this number off. To round it off to one decimal place would mean to make it only this size. So cover it up with your hand so you can see how big you want the number to be, and then have a peek at the next number. It's a 2, which means it's a little bit. We're closer to 1.3 than we would be to 1.4. So rounding this off to one decimal place gives us 1.3. To round it to 2 decimal places means we only want it to be this big. So cover it up the size that you want, then have a peek at the next number. It's a 9. That's a big bit, which means we're closer to 1.33 than we are to 1.32, and this number goes up by 1. We don't touch this number because this number can go up, and the next thing above 1.32 is 1.33. To round off to 3 decimal places, we say, let's make the number this big, 1.329 and a bit. How big is the bit? 8, that's big. So we're closer to 1.330 than 1.329. Now, how did I know to bring this up to 30? Well, 9 can't get any bigger. It needs to go to 10. So it sort of rolls over to the next column. 29 becomes 30. You really can just take all of the digits here and roll them up by 1, like a car odometer would do. So we have 1.330. Now, the only real trick that happens that makes this process a little bit harder is if you have something like, let's say a number like this. No, let's make these. And we wanted to round this to 2 decimal places. These are the sort of ones that confuse people. Round it off, we say it's 1.99 and a bit. How big is the bit? 7, so it's quite big. So that means that this 9 needs to go up to the next number, but it can't, can it? And 99 can't come to the next number. So take 199 and make it roll up to 200. You'll still have a decimal point here though. This is 1 and a bit, isn't it? So it won't suddenly be 200. We're saying the number is roughly 2.00. And you can see that 199 just became 200. The decimal is still in the same place.